Chapter 6, Section 4 is a continuation of the last section where we were discussing elimination, but now we're going to be looking at the situation where you have different coefficients. So in Section 3, when we started talking about elimination, I started you off with problems that had the same coefficients, and we just had to do maybe a little bit of work if they weren't opposite. Now this next section, we're going to be doing the same process as far as solving. So we're still going to end up trying to add our equations together to get something to eliminate. But what's different now is that we don't have it set up with the same coefficients. And so we're going to try to work with the equations that we have and manipulate them a little bit, change them so that we do have opposite coefficients. So what these will look like is you'll be given any two equations here, and your x's and your y's aren't going to match. So you're not going to have the same coefficients that sit in front of those letters. So for example, when I look at these two examples here, I don't have my x's that match or my y's that match. So what I have to do first is just kind of decide, do I want to get rid of my x's or do I want to get rid of my y's? Now it doesn't really matter. So if you're choosing to do one way and I choose to do another way, that doesn't mean that what we're doing is wrong or that one of us is wrong and the other one's right. You should be able to get the same answer at the end, even if you solve for a different letter. So for this one, I decided that I want to eliminate my y's. And so I looked at my 4 and my 6. And the reason I decided to eliminate y is because I saw that I already had a minus and a plus. So I already had opposite numbers here. So what I'm going to do is get these to look the same. So I need to think of a number that both 4 and 6 can go into, which is 12. So I'm going to take this top equation times a 3. That way I can get that negative 4y to become a 12. And then I'm going to take the bottom equation times a 2. And that's what I'm showing you down here, as I took 3 times that top equation and 2 times the bottom equation. So now I'm going to rewrite these new equations. Now, remember last section when we were creating opposite coefficients and we had to multiply by -1, that I said you need to make sure that you multiply everything in the equation by that number. So the same thing applies here. I need to take everything in that first equation times 3, and everything in the second equation times 2. So the new top equation is going to say 9x minus 12y equals 48. And then the new bottom equation is going to say 10x plus 12y equals 28. Now I look at my y's, they have the same number in front of them, but they are opposite signs. So I'm going to go ahead and add these equations together. My y's are going to cancel. They eliminate. And I'm going to add what's left. So 9x plus 10x would be 19x. I bring down the equal sign. 48 plus 28 is going to be 76. And then I'm going to divide by 19. And so I get x equals 4. So there's one of our solutions. Now what I need to do is take that 4 and go back to one of my original equations up here at the top, and I need to try to solve for the y. So again, like we did in substitution and with the elimination that we did in the previous section, it doesn't matter what equation you go back into. So I'm going to decide to just go into that top equation, that 3x minus 4y equals 16. So now I'm going to write 3 and then put that 4 in for the x minus 4y equals 16. So then I have 12 minus 4y equals 16. I'm going to subtract 12. So I have negative 4y. 16 minus 12 would be 4. Divide by negative 4. And I get y equals -1. And then last step is to rewrite this as an ordered pair, like we've been doing in all the sections so far this chapter. So it's going to be 4, comma, negative 1. So now it's your turn to practice. So starting over on the next page, you see a couple of practice problems. I want us to do these just one at a time. So I want you to take a look at this first practice problem. And I want you to give this one a try on your own. So I want you to press pause, try to do this problem, take your time, and then come back and watch to see what it should have looked like. So what I did is I looked at my y's, and I thought that it would maybe be easiest to get rid of my y's because I could easily make that first y have a 2 in front of it by just multiplying by 2. But what I decided to do is instead of multiplying by positive 2, I took that top equation times a negative 2. So the new top equation says negative 4x minus 2y equals 23. I didn't do anything to the bottom equation, so I'm just going to bring that down. 3x plus 2y equals 37. So you can see on this one, to get those opposite coefficients, I only had to multiply one of my equations by number. I didn't have to do it to both of them. Now I'm going to add these equations together. My y's are going to eliminate. I have negative 4x plus 3x, which would leave me with just negative 1x, or just negative x, equals 23 plus 37. Oh, I'm sorry, I made a goof here. This should not be 23. This should be negative 46. That's better. Now, negative 46 plus 37 should be negative 9. Now, I want to make that x become positive, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. And I would get x equals positive 9. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it back in up here to one of the equations. I decided to use the top one. So I have 2x, but now it says 2 times 9 plus y equals 23. So this is 18 plus y equals 23. And then I subtracted 18 from both sides. And that left me with y equals 5. And then I wrote it as an ordered pair, so it was 9, 5. All right, so if you tried that last one and maybe you got close or you got stuck, I'm giving you another chance here to practice on your own. So now that you saw me work through that one, I want you to do the same thing here. I want you to pause the video, try to do this problem, and then come back and keep watching to see what it should have come out to be. For this one, I did have to do a little bit more work to it because neither of my x's or my y's match. And it wasn't like an easy fix, like just take one of the equations times a number. I did decide to eliminate my y's first, only because they already have opposite signs in front of them, so I don't have to worry about multiplying by negative at all. So I decided to multiply the top equation by a 5 and the bottom equation by a 3. So now the new top equation says 20x plus 15y equals 40. And the new bottom equation says 9x minus 15y equals negative 69. Then I added these together to get my y's to eliminate, and I was left with 29x equaled negative 29. I divided by 29 to get x equals negative 1. Then I plugged that back in at the start. So back up in here, I picked the top equation. So I picked 4, and then I put in a -1 for x, plus the 3y equals 8. That simplified to -4 plus 3y equals 8. I added the 4. So I had 3y equal 12. Divide by 3. And I got y equals 4. And then the last thing I did is I wrote it as an ordered pair. So -1, 4.